VLR.
Welcome to the Saturday Night Cigar Lounge.
And it is a very nice Saturday night here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. It is Saturday Night Cigar Lounge here on Vigilant Liberty Radio. I'm your host, Taylor. Thank you very much for being here for the show. A very, very special show. I'm very excited about this. Which is quite obvious since I've been trying to promote it all day. One of my favorite authors, and I can say author, not just comic book author, since I have two of your books. Chuck Dixon is here, the co-creator of Bane, the Batman villain. Chuck Dixon is here. Chuck, how are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing fine.
Good.
I'm here digitally. I'm Skyping.
I know. Instead of, I think the last few times we've had you on was over the phone.
Yeah. So now I sound all digitized.
Yes, all digitized and sound like we're in the same studio together almost sometimes.
Spooky.
But let's, I mentioned the fact that obviously you are a comic book author and an author in general. One of the I think one of the coolest stuff of yours that is coming out this Tuesday, and that is the Forgotten Man graphic edition, a new history of the Great Depression. It's a graphic adaptation of the Amity Schley's book. How did you get involved in this?
Someone I used as an agent a few times was at a cocktail party and ran into someone from a publishing company that had published Forgotten Man, and happened to mention that they were considering doing a graphic novel or comic book version of the Forgotten Man, and would my agent know of anybody? And my agent said, I only know of somebody who could help you out with this. Because, I would get the politics of it. I'd be on board with the Forgotten Man, and she sold them on the fact that, I had the chops. And so, I was brought in, and from there, they wanted, the thing when you're working with the book publishers is they don't really know how to do comics, so you kind of have to bring them along and help them package it. And my first choice for the art was Paul Ravoche. I said, this is the guy we got to try to get. And I had no idea Paul's politics. I just knew he was perfect for this project, that he could bring it to life, because it's difficult material. And wow, he's done amazing stuff with it. And it turned out that he was down with the viewpoint of the book as well.
Were you excited with how it came out and how it's looked?
Well, I haven't seen a lot of it. Paul showed me some pages. He's emailed me some stuff. I haven't seen a lot of it. Quite frankly, mine was a first pass and I did a 150-page version. I think it's now closer to 300 because they decided to go into even more depth. So I was condensing the book and telescoping, basically trying to turn it into a feature film. And I think what they've wound up with is a more exact adaptation of Amity's book.
With how this has gone on and how it's been done, looking at like the first time that you've done this, you've adapted something from a book to a comic book. Is that something you want to keep? You'd like to keep doing?
Yeah, if the work is interesting. I mean, the first one I did was The Hobbit, which was great. I mean, it's all there. And I did Call the Wild, and I've done the Robert Jordan books, and I've done some Joe Abercrombie books. As long as the source material is interesting and challenging. And Forgotten Man was enormously challenging because it's a wonderfully written book, but the subject of the Great Depression and the history of it doesn't really lend itself to comics. So everyone had to get very inventive in how to keep it vital and visual. And everything I've seen is just brilliant. I mean, it's going to be it is an amazing property.
And this was all about Amity just wanting to, and her agent and publisher just wanting to adapt it for another medium, right?
Yeah, they wanted to reach a wider. I mean, it had been an enormously successful and enormously influential book, but they wanted to reach more people with it. And my first thought seeing it was you've got to get as mainstream an artist because who's going to make the storytelling experience effortless. You don't want an artiste in quotes. You want somebody who's going to bring the Depression to life. And Paul is, he's amazing and stuff like that. He really makes the world of it live. But at the same time, the storytelling is clear. You never get lost. You just effortlessly read it. It's a wonderful storytelling experience. It's a pure comics experience as well. And, you're learning stuff without realizing it. Because the story Amity set up it's a drama. Really, it's a history, and it's accurate, and it's wonderful, but it's also a drama. It's with this huge ensemble cast.
Well, if there was a way to somehow get you to do an adaptation of, what's the best way to put it? An adaptation of Coolidge, I wouldn't turn that down at all. So, next time you talk to Amity, if you want to suggest that, I won't stop you.
Well, now that she's learned how to work in the comics medium, I don't think she needs me anymore. So she can do just fine. That was the biggest challenge to me was to do it because I wanted to keep all of her words. I didn't want any of my own words in there. And comics need transition captions and things like that. And I was always reticent to add anything. I just wanted it to be her words. It's like when I adapted The Hobbit. There are no words in there of mine. It's all Tolkien. Because I don't think when you adapt this stuff, you should be willy-nilly just saying, well, I could say that better. Because when it came to The Forgotten Man, I could not possibly say it better than Amity said.
Have you ever done adaptations, say, or looked at, say, screenplays to novels and how that process goes? Is this any similar, or is this doing it in reverse?
It's you can do things in prose that simply don't work in a graphic novel, and I'm thinking about jumping back and forth in time and things like that, which when you're writing prose, you don't think about that much. But in a comic, you're going to lose the reader, so you have to think of visual segues and things like that, and then you've got to fill in dialogue, where it's all very well and good that Franklin Delano Roosevelt is talking to his cabinet about setting the gold price, the price of gold per ounce, but you've got to do that with dialogue. You can't simply have captions saying, well, they talked about this and talked about that, because it's just dead. So to some degree, you've got to extrapolate a little bit. But I've done other adaptation work where I've taken movie treatments. That's the big thing in Hollywood, take a movie treatment and turn it into a graphic novel so you can show it to people. And I've done quite a bit of that. And
that's got to be that's got to be some fun and challenging at the same time. I mean, you did some stuff with the Expendables too, right?
Yeah, I took some meetings, and I got to talk to Stallone a lot, which was cool. But nothing really came of that. But I've done adaptations for the various studios. I did an adaptation that saw publication. I did an adaptation of a movie that Mel Gibson was going to produce and direct about the first book of Samuel, and that was actually published as a graphic novel.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I worked from a treatment for that. But I've worked on treatments for a lot of movies that never got made. They just got made into graphic novels to show to producers, and never saw the light of day beyond that.
When that stuff happens, when the graphic novels get done, but the movie doesn't, do they end up seeing the light of day, at least graphic novel format wise?
Only the one, the Battle of Destiny that I did for Icon about the first book of Samuel, David and Goliath and all that. That did see the light of day. You can buy that one. With some gorgeous artwork by Aaron Miniter. But, there's been a bunch that I've done that, they just died of boring. Whoever they showed it to wasn't interested in putting money into it. So, but it happens all the time. I mean, I don't know if anybody remembers, but there was a movie called California with David Duchovny and Brad Pitt in the 90s. I did a comic book adaptation of that screenplay with Duncan Fegredo art, and that never saw the light of day, and that was gorgeous. DC put that deal together. I don't know why they never published it.
Oh.
And then Butch Geis and I worked on an adaptation of the Wild Wild West movie, the Will Smith one, and we were told to stop around page 30, so that never saw the light of day either.
I want to see the now. I mean, you and Duncan, since I can't pronounce his last name to save my life. I want to see that now.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
He is one of my favorite artists. I mean, the stuff he did when he took over the art on Hellboy for Mignola, I thought was just the way he did it was fantastic.
Yeah, he's got a real unique approach. I mean, he is real good. I mean, but there's so many things out there that get done, and nobody ever sees.
Yeah. Well, speaking of something that we will see, and speaking of Butch Geis, y'all have a new project. Well, a return for you at least, but a new project that is coming out called Winter World, a continuation of something that you did. With this first came out when in the 80s? Was that when it came out?
It was, well, the original miniseries came out in '89.
Right.
And then we did a follow-up at Epic. The first one was from Eclipse. The second one, we did a follow-up at Epic that was never published. It's been published recently. It was collected by IDW and published a couple of years ago. But this is a new series, an ongoing, and on sale either this week or next. With the first arc is by myself, written by myself, and with artwork by Butch Geis. The artwork is just breathtaking.
When did you decide to do more Winter World?
Well, I'd always had the idea of doing it because the story's not complete. We sort of leave Scully and Wynn in a lurch at the end of Winter Sea. So, I always want to do it again, and I always had the idea I would do it at IDW, because to me, IDW is like the child of Eclipse Comics. Ted Adams started there as an intern, and he learned so much from Dean Mullaney about comic publishing, and how to treat creators. And it was Ted who finally approached me because they have a deal with Xbox to make a limited TV event, as they call it, an 8-episode TV event for exclusively for Xbox, hour-long episodes. So he wanted me to, continue the series as an ongoing through IDW to create more material.
That was, and I'm looking forward to that. I mean, when that was announced, I about started jumping up and down in my chair at work. To see, because obviously the announcement about Winter World, the continuation of it came out before they then announced that it was going to be a limited event series.
Right.
Was this something that IDW? I mean, what was IDW already working on this and then said, "Let's do the comic," or how did that all come about?
Ted, and I'm not clear on all the details, and but Ted has a new approach to how to translate comics into other media. And it involves a lot more creative development from IDW rather than simply licensing or signing an option deal. IDW, more or less partners with an entertainment producer. And he told me that the property he thought of first was Winterworld. They really wanted to see that, done on the, live action. And that's when, we began with, he said, I want you to begin an ongoing. And with top flight artists and we're committed to doing it ongoing to produce material, not only to feed the television show, and any potential sequels to the event, but to have material on hand for readers when the TV show hits, because obviously when the TV show hits, it's going to be that's the promotion, so that's the promotional avalanche there. So it all sort of came together all at the same time.
And it's Microsoft doing this, not like FX, not like Netflix. It's Microsoft.
Yeah, and it's kind of Hollywood, but not Hollywood, because and there's scrabbling around looking for money, doing so many of these projects. I mean, we already got a budget and all the rest of it. So. It's all looking good. It's all looking like it's going to move right along. It's not going to be the beep and creep they usually do in Hollywood, where it takes forever to get anything done.
Did you ever think that this would happen?
No. I can't tell you how many producers and screenwriters I've talked to about Winterworld over the years, and it just reached the point where I'm on the other end of the phone going, yeah. Because they just. Everybody wants to talk, and they're in love with it until they get off the phone. So it's one thing I learned about Hollywood: their enthusiasm is, has a short lifespan. So, but this one, it's got Ted driving it. It's got IDW driving it. So I've got more confidence, and everything looks good. Everything looks very positive.
Do you think one of the reasons why it has taken occasionally longer, at least for Winterworld, to get done, is because it takes place in a winter world and they have to create all the fake snow?
It's probably one hurdle. It didn't stop the producers of Waterworld from stealing the plot, and it's they borrowed heavily from it and then decided to shoot it on water instead, which is even harder. But yeah, I mean, obviously with today's CGI effects and the rest, I mean, doing a story set in a winter setting isn't as daunting as it once was. I'm sure they'll go to someplace cold to do principal, but a lot of the backgrounds and effects and things like that. I mean, you can put vapor on people's breath, and even if the room's 100 degrees now. So
yeah, who would you, if you could cast anyone, who would you want?
I have no idea. I don't even get into that. I mean, I had a screenwriter once ask me if Wynn could be older to be a romantic interest for Scully, which horrifies me. But I said, look, I could say yes, I could say no, but in the end, if the studio says we're going to cast Angelina Jolie, what am I going to say? I've already signed the papers.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen here. That's not going to happen here because IDW is more involved in the creative end of this. So it's going to be closer to the core property. There's not going to be a bunch of crazy Hollywood extrapolation on the story. We're going to keep it the way it is.
I'm gonna lobby for a couple of people, even if you don't have even if you may not have the pull. Michael Rooker's looking for a job now since they killed off his character they killed him and then they killed him again. Yeah, in Walking Dead. And I know Adam Baldwin has a new show that I hope is extremely successful. The Last Ship on TNT, starting June 22nd. But Michael Rooker's awesome. Adam Baldwin's awesome. I mean, somebody like that, a man's man. Who looks like they could hack it in Winterworld. Yeah. And I'm sure they could find a place for Nick Searcy too, right?
Yeah, sure.
And no, I'm not just suggesting Michael Rooker and Adam Baldwin because I got to meet them last weekend and talk guns with them. I mean this seriously. I like their stuff.
Is Adam Baldwin tall or what?
Something? He was sitting down, so
Man,
I
I'm
didn't get to see him
6'4".
standing up.
No, I'm 6'4", and I was a gog. I don't know. This guy's like John Wayne tall. He has to be 6'7". I was looking up at. I don't look up at a lot of people.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a big, and he's a big guy. I never really thought about it. I was watching Full Metal Jacket recently, and I was like comparing him to Dorian Harewood. I was like, damn, he is a big guy. Because Dorian Harewood's looking up at him.
Yeah. No, he was sick last. I mean, this is how much of a trooper he is. He was sick, but he still did like 9 hours of signing, almost like per day.
Yeah, he's a soldier, that guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's a nice guy, and Michael Rooker's short.
Well, they're all short out there. That's why I was so stunned that Baldwin was tall.
Yeah.
My only experience with Adam Baldwin was I was at a con, and there were a bunch of fans, giddy fans. It was late at night. They were all worked up. And I'm waiting at the elevator with them. We all get on, and then this enormous guy gets on after us. It's Adam Baldwin. And he looks at me, and I look at him, and I don't say anything. Because I know the last thing in the world he wants to do is be mobbed by these giddy fans in an elevator.
Yeah.
So he just sort of, with his eyes said, thank you. And that's the only contact I've had with him.
No, he's a good guy. He's a good guy, and Michael Rooker is apparently he's a big shooter. It turns out. He posted a video on YouTube, or somebody posted a video on YouTube of him at a range, and dead center hit a target 70 feet away with a Colt 45.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not easy.
And I asked him about it when I saw him, and he was like, my sights were right, I was seeing everything right, and just nailed it. He goes, it's amazing. I can hit small targets, but I can't hit big targets. I have no luck with those.
All a matter of focus.
Yeah. Boy, not to get you to divulge stuff that obviously is in the pipeline, but you got other stuff going. I know you just finished up with G.I. Joe, but there's got to be more coming soon, right?
Yeah, well, they're going to return to the Joe franchise in the fall, and they told me that I'll be involved again, but I don't know about that. I do. I know that
exactly
I'll be involved because they said so. I believe them, but I don't know anything about what permutation that will take. So, but staying busy with other stuff.
Yeah.
I just started work on my third Bad Times novel, and that's going well. And Graham Nolan and I are doing work for a foreign publisher, but they haven't announced it yet, so I can't talk about it yet. But we're basically building a superhero universe for a big foreign publisher. So
this is me just getting all giggly. For those who don't know, Graham Nolan was the one who he designed how Bane looked, right?
Yeah. And I think he also did that Huntress outfit that we, during the period that he and I were on the book, which is my favorite Huntress costume.
And are you? What do you think about seeing how these characters for lack of a better term, revitalized? Whether it was Huntress, Black Canary, seeing them in stuff like Arrow, or end up in the Justice League United TV show. Do you just kind of sit there and go, "Yep, I did that," or are you just happy to see those characters being used?
I'm happy to see them being used. I mean, to a certain extent. I mean, when you're on a book like like when you're on the Batman franchise, you're a caretaker to a certain extent. And I mean, Huntress came about because I loved the original creation of it, and I wanted to bring the character back into the Batman universe. You know, and there was a little bit of resistance from the editors, but I kind of insisted. So, you know, Graham and I brought her back in, you know, as a, you know, not an Elseworlds character, but, you know, it wasn't really an Elseworlds at that time, but sort of an Earth 2-ish kind of feel to it. And so brought her back into the fold, as it were. But, you know, it's cool to see them. Yeah, it's cool to see them as toys. It's cool to see them on TV. I mean, I watch Arrow only because I want to see what characters I've created they used.
because they are good with those reimbursements, right?
Well, yeah, let's talk about that another time. But sometimes you got to keep after them a little bit. You know?
Yeah,
they're not as diligent. They're not as diligent as they used to be. So you have to go, hey, that guy that, you know, got shot by Arrow in the first 5 minutes, they called him something, and that's the name I had. So.
Have you found that to
be?
Huh?
It's not like it used to be. You used to be able to call Paul Levitz and just go, "Hey, how about this?" And then they cut the check. But you know, you got to go through a little more hoops now.
Yeah, he's. Let me, because everybody is, for lack of a better term, is leaving. DC, is that just how it goes? People move on eventually.
Well, you know, those people have had roots down in the New York area for like their whole working careers. So DC's kind of leaving them. And, you know, I talked to a few of them. They're already making plans, you know, for what they're going to do after. And so, you know, a lot of guys just didn't want to relocate to L.A. You know, I can't blame them. I wouldn't want to either. So, you know, they've got kids in school. They've got family and everything else. So they're just going to basically retire themselves out of DC.
It's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's also unfortunate that they'll be replacing them with, you know, Hollywood people probably.
That seems to be what people end up doing, is that, you know, the Hollywood stuff, Hollywood does kind of take over occasionally.
You may get the impression. You may get the impression I don't have a high opinion of Hollywood people, because I don't. And I can say that even though I'm involved in Hollywood stuff, because people never think you're talking about them. Oh yeah, he means that other guy. But yeah, I've met some great people out there, but you know, there's some people that can just they could ruin any.
Yeah. Well, it's I guess that happens. I mean, there's one. There are a couple everywhere, aren't there?
Yeah, but the thing is, you know, we all get to go to the movie theater and see what a bunch of screw-ups they are. You know, I mean, you go to the movies and it's like, how the heck did this happen? You know, well, you know, if you met the people I've met, you'd know all about it.
Like X3. Like X-Men 3.
Yeah, you know, train wrecks like that, you know, and then the Schumacher Batman.
Yeah. Or a couple of Batman films that don't exist anymore.
Yeah, there you go. Or, you know, all of the lame Harry Potter knockoffs. You know, just the crap they bring out. You know, and they drain every amount of, you know, they throw, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars of CGI effects up on the screen, but before they do that, they drain the story of wonder and surprise.
Well, yeah, you know, I wonder sometimes when I look at, because Hollywood films, obviously, they want to make money, and you would think that if they got to wait an extra year or another, or, you know, an extra 2 years, and they know they're going to make money, why they don't just say, you know, let's wait that extra 2 years for this film to come out.
Yeah, but see, they're filling in the schedules. I mean, they're just penciling in names on months and weekends, years in advance, you know, and then they commit to that. That becomes the holy grail. You've got to make it to that weekend with this movie, no matter what. Even if it's the biggest steaming pile of crap in the world, it's got to get there. And, you know, I guess Hollywood's always been that way to some extent, but I think they were more in tune with what the audience wanted. I mean, you know, some of these movies go on to make a lot of money, but the biggest problem for me is that Hollywood doesn't seem to grasp mathematics. You know, there's a sort of a math that if you make a horror movie and you bring it in for under $3 million, you're going to make a fortune, you know. And the same thing for romantic comedies and other things. But then you see these movies with, you know, 100, 200 million, $300 million budgets, and you know they're never going to, you know, in our lifetime see that money back. And you think that they would learn. I mean, when you make a $300 million Western, I mean, something's wrong. Someone's calculator went crazy or something.
Speaking of Westerns, you are a big Western fan. Anything in particular you've been looking at recently or reading recently that you've really enjoyed?
No, I just, you know, basically just go back to the classics. I rewatched The Wild Bunch the other night for I can't even remember how many times I've seen that movie. But I always see something new. You know, basically just reviewing the classics.
I watched I actually rewatched The Wild Bunch about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. Boy, that film is something else. Sam Peckinpah really was a good director, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was, and it was all in his head. I mean, it's hard to believe that none of that movie was storyboarded, which must have driven the crew crazy. But,
Yeah.
I was watching on TCM on The Essentials. Drew Barrymore picked Wild Bunch as an essential, and it was great to see Robert Osborne's discomfort because, as it turned out, he was a publicity guy for Warner's at the time, and they sent him down to Mexico to talk to Peckinpah while he was filming The Wild Bunch, and apparently Peckinpah abused him horribly. So, it was great to see an episode of The Essentials where one of them had nothing good to say about the movie.
He certainly seems like a different kind of cat.
Yeah, but it's you know, it's that kind of movie. Nobody is lukewarm on it. You're either hot or cold on it.
Yeah, it's like
it's a mean movie. I mean, as the years go by, it just seems meaner, which is beautiful.
Yeah. Well, it's like I remember I watched that. I've watched The Getaway. I've watched Straw Dogs, and all of those are just there's something else. It's completely different than your normal stuff.
Well, you know, that's the kind of stuff that people could get away with in the 70s. You couldn't touch that stuff now. I mean, I watched Electric Light Night with one of my sons, and at the end of the movie, he just said, "That's it, isn't it? This is a 70s movie, buddy. The hero doesn't always make it to the end."
Yeah.
So, you know, it was a great period, but we're never going to see anything like that because, you know, they would, you know, a test audience wouldn't like it. They changed it all to Hearts and Flowers.
I know there was something that got, I can't remember what it was, but I know what it was. It was Star Trek Generations in '94, where they test audienced it, and the original death of Kirk is completely different than the one that actually eventually happened on film. And it was because the test audiences hated it.
What was it, like a more passive death?
It was, they beat Dr. Sauron, and Picard and Kirk are you know, congratulating each other, and all of a sudden Sauron pops up and just shoots him in the back. And then Jason falls over and dies.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, I'm glad they did what they ended up doing with him, you know, in the grate or whatever, on the bridge, falling down and dying. A spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen Star Trek Generations. Sorry.
But it's that's almost as under-dramatized as the death of Kirk's son in Star Trek 3. He just sort of dies off screen.
Yeah.
Goodbye, Merritt Patrick. Your contract is over.
We gotta get him taken care of now.
Kirk can't have a son.
But speaking of characters, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we will discuss a character that I don't know if you've ever written him, but he's one of my favorites. And you recently said that the comic company that owns the character has no idea what to do with him. So we'll discuss that right after this. This is Saturday Night Cigar Lounge. I'm your host, Taylor. Chuck Dixon is my guest. And we'll be right back after this.
This is the Pint-Sized Pundit, and I am here to tell you that anything Taylor says on Saturday Night Cigar Lounge is his opinion and his opinion only. He does not speak for his employer, his employer's employer, or anyone else. He especially doesn't speak for Liz unless she says so.
Mr. President, members of Congress, you've been making a lot of noise about taking our guns away. But you might want to review history. 1835, Gonzales, Texas Territory. The authorities wanted to confiscate the big gun that protected that colony. You know what the people said? Come and take it. Because they were willing to fight for their freedom and their guns. So are we.
Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but I warn you, you'll have to pry it from our cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line. If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it.
One shot at a time. Just like Gonzales. We're keeping our guns.
Hi, I'm Dustin Hoyt with America Our Way, and you can hear me right here on Vigilant Liberty Radio at 10/9 Central on Thursday nights. We bring you the best in political commentary from the right-wing, conservative, libertarian perspectives coming together and bringing the best content on the internet. Be sure to tune in every week for your favorite shows. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
Hey, this is Alfonso Rachel with 20 Pound Sledge and PJTV Zone Nation, and you're listening to VLR.
And back here on Saturday Night Cigar Lounge, here on Vigilant Liberty Radio. I'm your host, Taylor. Chuck Dixon is my guest. Chuck, say hello.
Hey.
And also very happy to have joining us for this conversation, J.D. Bryden, NJ Libertarian. J.D., how are you?
I'm on the phone with Chuck Dixon, and that's pretty cool.
I said that. I said at the time that I had dinner with Chuck, Gordon Purcell, and a couple of other people at Chicago Comic Con. I was sitting there going, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that I'm doing this." Gordon Purcell is feeding me calamari. 14 years ago. The fun stuff that happens there. But I have JD here because he and I got into a great phone conversation off air about this character after you chimed in on it. Chuck, you've been involved with the Punisher a lot. That was where a lot of your Marvel stuff was done. Over at DC, though, they have a character called Deathstroke, which was a villain, kind of not quite hero, but wasn't completely hated. It's almost like they, and you actually said this, you said DC doesn't know what they're doing with Deathstroke. Why do you think, is it because they can't decide if he's a villain or an anti-hero, or is there more than just that?
Well, DC has a bad track record with what I think of as Punisher-type characters, and Deathstroke certainly fits the form. I mean, they had Vigilante, and it was always sort of wishy-washy, a half-assed attempt at doing a Punisher-type thing. And Deathstroke, it just seems like he's burdened by his backstory and his continuity, which I'm not even clear on. all I know is the guy looks like a badass and acts like a badass, but they don't take it far enough and sort of spotlight him as the kind of guy who brings the rough justice that a Frank Castle would.
They did a really good job, I thought, in the Titans series, in Teen Titans, at showing how much of a badass he can be.
But he's a badass in Teen Titans. I mean, how hard is that?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's true. But JD, you said that Deathstroke wasn't.
I mean, if we're talking about the comics, he kills his.
JD, you were talking about it. You never thought he was high profile enough, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's like a second, third banana. He's always somebody else's dude. You know, he's a contracted killer. He doesn't, you know, he's not he's a mastermind that doesn't mastermind anything for himself. At least that's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, and he's not. He's interesting enough. He's not like Snake Eyes and G.I. Joe. Snake Eyes and G.I. Joe is a wonderful character, and everybody loves him. But you can have too much Snake Eyes. Too much Snake Eyes is not a good thing. You want a little bit of Snake Eyes here and there to make things super cool. Deathstroke could stand more exposure. I mean, he could stand, you know, doing his own thing and going mano a mano with some of DC's, you know, heavier hitters and killing a few of them. I mean, let's unleash the guy.
I mean, it was certainly something. Yeah, it just. I don't know. It's something that I would think that they would love having because of how good of a character that he is. But then they had a really good series with Kyle Higgins when they did the New 52, and they dumped him and got Rob Liefeld.
Well, that's always a mistake. And the thing is, you got this TV show on every week, you know, with this guy playing a really badass Deathstroke. And to me, it seems like he's one of the reasons to watch that show. You would want to capitalize on that. And then sadly, the guy on the show is closer to what the character should be in the comics.
I think we may have lost JD, but yeah, it's, you know, it's. He certainly seems like a good character that you would think that they would want that they would want to capitalize it.
Yeah, he definitely could carry more than he does. In a lot of ways, he's like Moon Knight over at Marvel. You know, he looks really cool, but what do we do with him? You know, there really should be a plan mapped out because there seems to be a gap there at DC for this kind of character, and he's the perfect guy to fill that gap.
Is a part of the problem Deadshot? Because you got Deathstroke and you got Deadshot, and they're different but still similar.
He's not as interesting. You know, he doesn't look as interesting. You know, I know he's got a following, but they've all got followings. Hell, the Red Tornado has a following. You know, what does that mean? You know, Deadshot's never been a guy like, oh, yeah. I mean, I never wanted to write Deadshot. I did a little bit of Deathstroke. He showed up in Detective Comics for part of an arc because I thought him and Batman have got to go at it. And, you know, I've had him appear here and there. But, again, they kept a tight rein on him. They didn't want him appearing a lot. I don't know how it is at DC now, but DC back then had all these weird rules about what characters you could use and how much you could use them. Deathstroke was one of those guys who was mostly off limits.
Now, one of the things I thought you said interesting about the Punisher was, he's a better supporting character than he is a regular character?
Yeah, I think, you know, Punisher's one of those characters that when he shows up, it's a, you know, dun, dun, dun moment. You know, it's like, okay, there's going to be trouble now. I mean, it's just going to hit the fan now because Frank Castle's here. And all bets are off. I mean, forget whatever story you thought was going to happen. Now it's him in charge. And to that extent, yeah, I mean, in a way, he's like Snake Eyes, that, you know, you don't want too much of him because it's cool. It's not that his coolness factor wears away, but too much exposure with writers who don't understand him, that's the biggest problem. You know,
he's got malevolence. There's whenever the Punisher shows up, it changes the attitude of what's going on, and I do think that that's something that Deathstroke could do. I mean, he does have that badass. Somebody's going to get sliced to pieces. He doesn't he doesn't mess around. Something is going to die imminently as soon as he shows up.
Yeah, it takes that Nancy Pants, I'm not going to make myself like you kind of attitude. And I'm not going to sink to your level. Well, Deathstroke and Frank Castle, they'll sink to your level and lower if it gets the job done. And that's what makes them so cool, because that just, like JD said, it changes the whole dynamic of the story.
Yeah, I mean, that was something, I've been reading a lot of Mike Grell recently, like the old John Sable freelance stories. And he had Sable show up in his Shaman Tears book, and it's like, okay, now you know that things are going to get really bad because he's going to bring a lot of guns.
Right.
And he'll do what needs to be done.
Yeah, there's not going to be any moral equivalency or, feeling bad about it afterwards. Somebody's there to do the bloody work.
If you were to do, because I don't know, I've always thought that Deathstroke could work as like, I'll use the Man with No Name as an idea, but as a suggestion, but it's probably closer to some of the characters that Lee Van Cleef has played, and like the big gun down. He seems like kind of a Lee Van Cleef character.
Yeah, there's this veneer of sophistication about the guy. He's like James Bond in that way. He knows what wine to order, but then, he'll, strangle you with a piano chord in the next 5 seconds. So, I mean, he knows how to do both well. So, yeah, I mean, I can see that. There's something a little bit aristocratic about him that's kind of cool.
JD, what do you think?
I think that's the case. I also think that there's a bit of a problem with ambiguity in the character. I mean, as Chuck said before, there's a billion different backstories for the guy, and he has super strength. Does he not have super strength? What does he do? It's so much more clear cut with Punisher. Punisher kills people. That's what he does. He's got guns and he's going to kill you. Deathstroke is a little bit, more complex than that when it comes to what he does and who he interacts with, and that's another thing is that we said before that when he's dealing with the Teen Titans as the guy is that he's either aiding for a short period of time before he backstabs them or whatever. That's lame. I mean, give him someone. I think he would make a really interesting foil for Batman. I mean, he's got all of the stats. He's really smart. He's a genius tactically. He definitely could have that sort of, Ra's al Ghul sort of interaction going on there. These are two forces that you would love to see going at it.
Yeah, I mean, you love to see them going at it, but at the same time, you can see stories where they would be on the same side.
Sure.
And that's what makes it really great. I mean, Deathstroke is an anti-hero. He's a villain that the readers love.
He's just an interesting character. I mean, he's got one eye, and he's still, a badass. It's like Nick Fury almost, I guess.
Yeah, well, you have to be a badass to have one eye. Go around not bumping into things.
Yeah.
What fictional character or one-eyed fictional character hasn't been cool?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree there. JD, since I've got you on here, anything you wanna ask Chuck that I may not have asked?
Yeah, actually, I asked some of my comics friends. I put out the alert, and the two questions I got back are: how would you pitch, Chuck, the Robin miniseries today in light of how DC has reinvented the universe? And then, yeah, exactly, right. And then the second one is: what character or title, if you had a shot, regardless of publisher, whatever, what character would you love to write? Try and write if you had free reign.
Okay, well, on pitching Robin, I wouldn't know how to begin pitching Robin because I didn't pitch him in the 90s. They came to me. So And I don't know enough about the New 52 to really take a shot at that, except I guess there would have to be some sort of social experimentation hook to the character to keep them interested. You know, and I don't know what that would be, and I don't want to give them any ideas. So, and then as far as what I'd love to do, you know, eventually, as far as comic characters, I'd love to write a long run on Fantastic Four. It's never going to happen, but you know, it's something I would really like to do.
Wow, Fantastic Four. That is a series that I thought, you know, I mean, out of all of the characters that or all of the series out there, that surprises me. That's cool. And they would definitely get a lot from your field.
I loved the Fantastic Four when I was a kid. And I love the dynamic of the characters. I mean, I got to work a little bit when Eric Larson did that World's Greatest Comic series. I got to do one issue, mostly because I just begged him to please let me do at least one. So I got a little taste of it, but I really enjoyed it. And I'd love to revisit the characters and do my own take on it. But that's not going to happen.
I was thinking you were going to say Superman.
Superman would be interesting. I've done a little bit of Superman. It'd be interesting. I mean, I like Superman. I was never as big a fan of Superman as I was of Batman growing up, but, you know, Superman's like that character who's always just kind of there, you know. So I'd like the challenge of trying to make him interesting and working within the Superman template, not trying to, you know, break the toys while I'm playing with them.
So no electronic powers?
No, none of that stuff. It's just ridiculous. I mean, you know, trying to explain this stuff away is just, you know, crazy. Unless you're going to do it in a Mort Weisinger kind of way. You know, some entertaining, wacky way of explaining this stuff. Like, how does he cut his hair? You know, that stuff.
It's all in the heat vision. Chuck, where... Go ahead.
That's all right.
I was going to say... we are winding down here on Saturday Night Cigar Lounge, here on Vigilant Liberty Radio. You are heavily involved with DixonVerse.net, which is obviously your official website, where you are called River to the People. If someone hadn't gone and looked at it, why should they?
We got a pretty neat message board. There's an archive with like scripts and a lot of unpublished comics. We were talking about unpublished comics earlier. There's a Punisher graphic novel that never saw publication. You can read the whole thing on my site. There's 2 issues of Punisher 2099. A whole bunch of other stuff. Some artwork for a Batman arc by Brian Stelfreeze that we never got to complete. There's a lot of stuff to look at, you know, and a bunch of goofiness, and some of my movie reviews and some of my essays on writing comics. Just, you know, a lot to browse through, you know, if the boss isn't looking on a work day.
Let's see. One of those Punishers that didn't hit was the Punisher Western, right?
Yeah, we did a second Punisher Western with Russ Heath, and he did about 10 pages, and they're up on the site. You can take a look. The Punisher meets a young George Patton when Pershing goes down to Mexico to try to find Pancho Villa, and Punisher wants to find him first.
Wow. Holy crap.
Yeah, I know. Sad.
My brain just melted.
They pulled the plug on it.
But and you're also at DixonVerse on Twitter too, correct?
Yes, I am.
All right.
I got a page up on Facebook. I got a Chuck Dixon page on Facebook. So
excellent. One reason why I did want JD to be on here too was he and I both saw Days of Future Past today. NJ, you agree with me? A big, we're really, really sorry for X-Men 3?
Yes, they apologized quite well.
So, and what do you think? Just a great movie, good to go see?
If you like comic book movies and if you like things being good in the world, then yes, definitely go and see this movie. It is fixed so much. Peace in the Middle East is a hope now.
Wow.
Peace in the Middle East is hey, you never know.
Hey, it could get retconned. It could get retconned.
True.
It's a process. It's a process.
Yes, and hey, let you know the Pope is there this weekend, so you never know.
Can the Pope travel back through time through powers that we didn't know that Kitty Pryde had? Great comic book.
That's a question I cannot answer, sadly. I cannot answer that question, sadly, because I don't know the answer to that. Francis is a lot. I don't know if he can if he can go back. And oh, hey, the boss is checking in. Liz Harrison just jumped into the chat. Hi Liz, and hi Barbara. Everyone who's now coming in when the show is about ready to sign off for the night. But although I guess we could keep going. I don't know. It's almost 11 o'clock there, Chuck. I don't know if you're ready to fall asleep yet or not.
I'm here. I'm staying here. I'll be home when you go off. I'll just sit here and
talk. When you sit there, yeah, I gotta admit, when I have been really impressed by a lot of westerns out there, a lot of the old spaghetti westerns that are out there. They just, I don't know, those Italian directors just knew what they were doing.
Yeah, well, it was a different take, and in a time period, because they were making a lot of decent American westerns at the time too. They were all very mean, but that was okay with me. But yeah, I mean, it hit so big in Europe. I mean, I think they made 700 spaghetti westerns over like a 8-year period.
Well, when you look at that time period, though, it's not like the westerns were all happiness and sunshine. I mean, there was mean stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it was brutal. They were like getting down to the nitty gritty about what it was like to live out there. In their own weird way with those strange soundtracks, but
yeah.
It was all their own take, and it was, and they were very Italian with the women with the heavy eye makeup and lots of sadomasochism. It's kind of strange.
Yeah. Did you ever have you ever looked at Hell on Wheels on AMC?
Looked at what?
Have you ever looked at Hell on Wheels on AMC?
Yeah, I saw the promos for it, and it just didn't look like there was anything there for me. It's
surprisingly really good.
Really? I'll have to check it out.
I was really impressed by it. And it's interesting to see the Western genre kind of start to come back a little bit. I mean, Justified is, kind of Western. Hell on Wheels is definitely Western. Gosh, what else? Longmire is a bit of a Western-esque too. Why do you think that's all coming back?
Well, it's pure escapism, and you can do them, inexpensively. I mean, AMC has a great track record with westerns. I mean, when they did Broken Trail a few years ago, they outrated even broadcast television the 2 nights it was on. So, that was kind of a clear indicator to them. Maybe they need to do some more. I think that the Western, everything goes through cycles. But, as we get further and further from that time period, it becomes more and more of a romantic period in that, we can imagine the adventures and the rest of it. And but as I said, they can be relatively inexpensive to do, and you get a lot up there on the screen. So, if you make them good, there's a viewership for it.
It doesn't have to cost $100 million to do a Western.
Yeah, or a Lone Ranger at $300 million.
Oh my God! Don't mention that.
Okay, sorry.
My grandfather's heart was broken. It was just terrible.
Yeah, I'm a
experience.
big Lone Ranger fan. And I just, what a travesty.
Well, I'm glad I didn't see that.
That was a good idea.
I'm they tried to Pirate of the Caribbeans it too much, I guess.
No, it wasn't even that. It was just everything about it was awful. I mean, it wasn't a Pirates of the Caribbean influence. It was just somebody who had no respect for the Lone Ranger franchise decided to come in and make a farce of a film. It was totally Schumachered.
Oh boy. And to add to the group call, hi boss.
Hello.
Liz Harrison is joining us for the very end.
Yeah, call this the concussion test.
I thought you said you didn't get a concussion.
Yeah, I don't think I did. I definitely did have a massive headache for quite some time after the occurrence. I took a spill.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that, Liz.
Yeah, well, it's filed under, I was being stubborn and stupid, and, well, if nothing else, the upside is that the family felt so guilty over it, at least certain members of the family, they started actually helping. So.
Beautiful.
Well, see, there we go.
That's always a good motivation.
Yeah, mom falls off a chair, hits the table, gets mud all over her from the plants on the front porch, and the daughter decides, oh, wait a minute, maybe we should actually help. Yeah, it's Memorial Day. We have the whole big parade thing going on, and my house is 3 houses away from the parade route. So I try to go and have, the patriotic bunting and other stuff up and have the porch cleaned off before Memorial Day. So that was the project of the weekend.
And you paid the price.
Yes.
I got nothing. I'm in a garage apartment, so I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, you're also not a borough employee,
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, the same thing happens at Christmas time, right? I believe it's the Thursday before Thanksgiving. They have their light up night parade, and I have to have my lights up and be able to turn them on. They don't get turned on again until Thanksgiving Day, and then they get shut off again until December. But yeah, have to have the lights for light up night. So.
Well, there we go. There we go. Well,
yeah, and of course, I'm the only one that does them.
All right, guys. Thank you all so much for being on. Chuck, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Anytime.
The graphic edition of The Forgotten Men comes out on Tuesday. You can get it from Amazon, or you can probably find it from either your local comic shop, hopefully, or at your local book dealer. Be sure to check that out. And Winter World by Chuck Dixon and Butch Geis comes out in the next few weeks. You can get that at your local comic shop. And then we don't know when the Winter World TV show is going to be on, correct?
No. No date for that.
Well, hopefully soon. So,
everyone... Buy an Xbox now.
Yeah, buy an Xbox One. The price did just drop. Next week on Saturday Night Cigar Lounge, a bit of a tease, we are going to be discussing a Reason Magazine article on video games, and if they make the world and the internet more free. NJ Libertarian will be a part of that. Sean Venkman is going to be a part of that. Another friend of ours is going to be a part of it, as well as Defend Wall Street, from who has done stuff with I watched in Free Beacon, a couple of other places. So I'm looking forward to that conversation, and tentatively scheduled to run before that conversation, which means that you may have to tune in to Saturday Night Cigar Lounge an hour early, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, because Mike Grell is tentatively scheduled as a guest as well. If you like Arrow, you can thank Chuck Dixon. You can thank Mike Grell for why all that is so interesting. So we will be back here next week. I know that there is going to be a Next with Jonathan Sangster tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central. Memorial Day is Monday. Do you know if Alan is doing a show, Liz?
I know that he intended to. Whether or not that happens remains to be seen.
We'll
because,
find out.
Their finest hour has been honoring Medal of Honor recipients for how long, so it makes sense of all of the shows for it to be on that holiday, but we'll have to find out.
We will have to find out. Also going to have on Tuesday the Roundtable of Extreme Liberty. Wednesday, Modern Comments at 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern, followed by the simulcast of the Right War. Then on Thursday, America Our Way with Dustin Hoyt, followed by the Right War. Friday, the Conservative Feminist Show.
Conservative.
With Liz Harrison, Mariah Joven, and Missy Bordius. So, and then of course Saturday Night Cigar Lounge. So we will talk with you guys next week. Thanks all.
This show is copyright by VLR Media. All opinions of panelists and guests are their own and may not reflect the opinion of VLR Media, the host, or anyone else.